Now, I do want to point something out here. When Trunks first powers up and goes Super Saiyan as well, we have a statement again about the quality of ki and the type of energy. And so Gohan thought that Trunks was actually his father because it was the same ki that his dad had back then. One thing to keep in mind is that in Dragon Ball, it's not always power level that they're referencing here. It could be the actual tangible feeling of ki. We actually see this later on with Cell. That's how they could recognize who a character is. And also, sometimes when the character changes in terms of their mentality, in terms of their spirit, like Gohan the Buu Saga, for instance, when he gets ultimate and then he starts flying toward the characters, they have no idea who he is, not because the ki necessarily is like, it's always Gohan, it's always the same thing, it's power level. No, it's because he has changed as a human being as well, and thus the feeling of his ki along with the energy also changed. When you're a Super Saiyan, you have like Super Saiyan ki. That's why they glow yellow in the anime version, and also certain versions of this. Like in this, originally Toriyama had them have white hair with red eyes, which I think would have been cool to keep that. But personally, the golden look is still iconic. Either way, I think that you could argue that maybe this means that he was around the power level of Goku on Namek if you take that literally. But at the same time, I think that there's an argument to be made, of course, that he is stronger, I would say so, and that Gohan sensed the feeling of the Super Saiyan ki. At this point in time, we do have King Cold steps down to fight against Frieza's killer, Trunks, and he offers him the role of being the new strongest being in the universe. So that, again, tells us that King Cold is weaker than his son, and that Trunks is also, well, obviously way stronger than King Cold. At this point in time, he thinks that it's just because of Trunks' sword that he was able to beat him. And what happens? Well, Trunks kills him with ease. He literally stops the sword in his hand. Of course, he is draped in aura when he does this. In the anime version, he's not, for whatever weird reason. I think it's because of how Toei misunderstands how Toriyama actually sets up how his in-universe powers work. Because typically, when Trunks swings his sword, he's imbuing it with ki. It's not just because he's really strong physically, it's because he's placed ki into the blade. Well, same thing is happening here. He puts up his defenses and his aura, grabs that blade in his hand, and thus he is not going to have his hand cut through by a guy who has millions of power level, as he would if he wasn't really trying in that case. In the anime, again, they try to make him look even more badass, but I think it doesn't really make as much sense as how it's explained. Plus, there's no begging about this here either.